It's lights out, everybody, and welcome back to the Low Downforce podcast, the For Friend Formula One podcast. It is the first race week of the season. We are here. We are headed down under. Of course, for the first time since 2019, we are starting off the 2025 Formula One season in Melbourne, Australia, specifically at Albert Park. The official name, though, this year, the Formula One Louis Vuitton Australian Grand Prix. So a little classy. If Rolex wasn't classy enough last year, we are stepping it up to Louis Vuitton. I am with J9, I am with Matt, I am with Josh, and you have myself, Ben. We are so freaking stoked for this season. We are so freaking stoked for this first race. I will be staying up in the middle of the night to be watching it live. I just can't wait any longer. This is our second year of doing a Formula One podcast, so be sure to check us out on our socials. Engage with us this season on YouTube, on Instagram, on X or Twitter, whichever you still call it. It is at Low Downforce Pod on all socials. You can find us. You can watch these episodes on YouTube if you don't want to just listen.
And you want to look how beautiful we all are.
Oh, of course. We are ready. Yeah. We are excited. J9's rocking the Las Vegas Grand Prix hoodie, so she's already ready to go.
This is true. I'm trying to hide how not clumsy I am by looking like I can race. But we're doing well.
I was driving around on the simulator on the video game earlier, and I know for a fact I cannot race.
Hey, so we're going to find out if the 20 drivers, some of them very new, if they can race. How are we feeling? Off season is officially over. Matt, what's the vibe?
Oh, I cannot wait. There's new faces. There's, not necessarily new teams, but we're on the last lap essentially of our regulations here, and there's going to be a lot of stakes up for grabs. So really excited for everything.
You know what I did like was that there's always a lot of, crap given to Netflix and Drive to Survive. But, our listeners know that that's how we got involved. I love how they drop the next season right before the race season starts. And obviously that show is about last season. So it kind of gets you prepared and gets you pumped up for what's about to happen. Maybe I'm just looking for the drama and trying to see what will they say about some of the things that did happen last year? Maybe give a glimpse of what it was, maybe
super over dramatic,
dramatized. Yeah, for sure. But it just at least gets you
it's entertaining.
I'm
excited
mood.
For the season.
Yeah, you're oh wow, cool. Oh, I don't like that guy. I like that guy, and then just get ready for the racing.
I just wish it came out earlier in the off season. Give me something to watch while I'm waiting, and especially having done this podcast last year, I feel like 2024, I paid more attention to Formula One than I ever have. So I want to see how Netflix skews all of it, because I know they do.
Maybe later in the season we'll do a review of Drive to Survive, so we don't once everybody's watched it, so we don't get.
Hey, so if
that
interests you,
I have a lot of problems with it.
If that interests you,
if you're problems with it, wow, we need an episode on that.
If that interests you, if you like Drive to Survive,
too, are you that pissed about it? We need to make it into a book club-esque kind of thing.
Yeah, we can do that.
That would be fun. Yeah, hey, maybe something to look to if you're listening along. Hey, look forward to maybe a Drive to Survive review hosted by yours truly. But that is enough talking about last season. We are itching to go for the new season. As we mentioned, in Australia at Albert Park. That means Pirelli has given us the C3, the C4, and the C5 tires, which is towards the faster end. It's the second fastest tire. It will be the soft. So look for a high track evolution track, but a low degradation track. That's what they're saying by going with faster tires. We'll have to see come this weekend if it's going to be a one-stop or a two-stop strategy to get all the way to the end of the race. But to get into Albert Park and what it looks like in Melbourne, we are heading, of course, to our original segment, Matt's Track Facts. Welcome back, Matt's Track Facts. What you got for us?
Glad to be here. As Ben mentioned, we're going down under. So Australia has held a race since the 80s, actually. It started in Adelaide and has since moved in 1996 to Melbourne, where it's been held every single year except for 2020 when COVID just absolutely disrupted everything. And also was not a part of the season calendar in 2021. So this will be the 28th race in Melbourne in 30 seasons. It's normally the first race of the year. Basically, since its inception, it's been very much a staple of the start of the season. And the last few years, we've seen Bahrain and Saudi Arabia come before Australia. Now we're going to go back, and it's going to be exciting. If you started watching Drive to Survive from the beginning, you know Australia was a very, very big deal, very big race. All the fans showed up in 2020, and then like right before we're expecting everything to start, just everything just shuts down. Among all the drivers that are on the grid today, Lewis has had the most success here with 8 poles and 2 wins. Lewis actually has the most poles here ever amongst all drivers in history. The next is a 3-way tie at 3 wins for Vettel, Schumacher, and Mika Hakkinen. And Max is the second most of all current drivers with 2 wins. So actually, maybe it was 2 poles. But either way, you know, Lewis is absolutely dominant on this track, whether or not that plays into your predictions or not. This is a home race, however, for Oscar Piastri. So although we missed Danny Rick, I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. We've still got an Aussie.
Don't forget about our boy Jack Doohan. We've got 2 home races this time.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Jack Doohan he's here, and he's here to race. But
and it's nearby for Liam Lawson. That doesn't count, but it's close.
That's true. That's
New
true.
Zealand.
It's the closest to his home race. Liam Lawson, of course, being from New Zealand.
Yes. But like we mentioned last year, if you want to go back and listen, you can hear how much we've evolved since then. But like I mentioned last year, there's 58 laps, 3.3 miles per go round, which is 5.3 kilometers. So you're going to go 190 miles or 306 kilometers total. It's a little more than some of the other races out there. And it's only got 14 turns. This is a high-speed track. Jeddah last year, which came before Australia, had almost twice as many turns and still does. But it's quite a bumpy track. It can be slippery. And, you know, a lot of that tire evolution is going to be really important. You need a good chassis to be here. It's a very temporary track, and they go fast. You know, I think Max's pole lap last year set an average of over 250 kilometers per hour. There's 4 DRS zones, so look out for DRS trains. And a lot of really sharp turns right after those DRS zones, like turn 1. Last thing to note in terms of just the track itself, there's a lot of sandstone and grass lining the sides. It's pretty dangerous to slip off the track here, so drivers are going to want to stay as close as they can to keeping in track limits. And the last thing I have to mention about the track and the race overall is the probability of a safety car. So we have seen in 27 Grand Prix here, there's been 17 races with a safety car, so 63.3%. But there's been a lot of years where there's more than one safety car. So you see about 1.1 per race. So that may factor into everyone's predictions. We'll see.
Speaking of safety cars, both of the last 2 years, we have seen some absolute carnage in the Australian Grand Prix. Safety car or worse, potentially red flag in the last couple years. But to throw us back to last year, we've got J9 giving us the track flashback.
Yeah. I'm actually going to start before last year because this race in particular, in a few instances has been pretty dramatic. We're going to go back to the 90s when Michael Schumacher was dominating. This race, actually, he collided with Damon Hill. Big collision there. They both wound up needing to retire. And that was the deciding factor in who won the Drivers' Championship that year, with Michael Schumacher taking first place by 1 point. So you start with like drama in the 90s. As you move to more recent years, we're going to like flash forward to 23. As y'all were saying, a lot of red flags. This was the first race in Formula One history to have 3 red flag moments in the race, which, to be quite honest, that's a huge safety concern. I know I'm a big safety girl. That is really scary. And especially with what you were saying, Matt, with the hedges and making sure that drivers are staying safe, they're driving well on the track, we will probably see a lot of red flags. Last year, this was a pretty big race. Carlos Sainz got the pole, won the victory there for Ferrari, which was huge. It was his first win since the previous year in Singapore. And his teammate, Charles Leclerc, finished second. So this was like a big Ferrari track and race. I probably last year was very much due to them being able to go really fast on the straights. Again, their car didn't do as well on the turns, but this was really big for Ferrari. And I'll mention Lando Norris. He got third. I'll mention him as well. But I think that's really gonna, at least it was a big factor in my predictions, just because this is the first race of this season. We don't know too much about how the cars are actually going to perform. Neither do they. So I'm really excited to see specifically Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, and McLaren on this, because I think it's going to be a really big telltale sign of how these cars are actually going to work on some of those tracks that are pretty big on the streets.
Thinking about last year, I mean, I've got great memories. Matt, Josh, and I, we were eating rum balls at midnight. Oscar Piastri's grandma makes rum balls, so we're trying to match the energy watching the race live. But to me, this was the first exciting race of 2024 because it started off with Red Bull dominance, and Max Verstappen, the only reason Ferrari has a 1-2 there is because Max Verstappen has a brake failure and has to retire the car. All of a sudden, a couple laps in, there's smoke coming up and everything. And this was unheard of for Red Bull. Max hadn't retired in 40-something straight races. It was something pretty incredible, and I think that was a little teaser to what last season was. So hopefully, with all of the chaos, it continues this year. We get even more excitement for the whole season long. Speaking of whole season long, we are doing our Predictors Championship. We started it with the 2025 season predictions. You can check out that episode, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. But this is our first official normal race week predictions. I'm going to let Josh talk through what that entails.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in the season predictions, but here we are. We're back. Clean slate. Everybody's starting on 0 points, but we're making predictions for the year. And especially early on, it makes it really hard because we don't know what to expect. Nobody knows what to expect. So I think it's going to be tough for us. But this year, we're predicting a little bit different categories. We're predicting pole position. We're predicting the whole podium, third, second, first. We're predicting who finishes 10th place, getting that final point. And then a spicy hot take, which is worth 3 points, where everything else is worth just 1. And last year, it was close. It was down to the wire. And all we can hope for is the same thing this year. You won, Ben.
Oh,
you beat me by 1
baby.
point.
Down to the wire is generous.
The
at least,
McLaren
to say
Ben
if it was all
Hill.
At
for
the
us.
top it was.
Yes,
So,
yes.
hey, we're back. We're making predictions. And we got to start with quali. Picking out pole. All of us got to do it. So
first one of the year.
Yeah.
Everybody's itching to go. Who's got their foot pedal all the way down the most? Josh, we'll bounce right back to you. Who do you think is starting the race P1?
It's Lando Norris. McLaren has the best car. He is coming into the season with so much confidence. And I think all four of us, if I can predict your minds, I think all four of us are going to go Lando here.
I went Lando as well. I think he needs to, though. I think that Lando drives based on confidence. I think he makes mistakes when he's unsure.
Agreed.
And so I think if McLaren is talking about not having a slow start to the season like they normally do, they got to start hot right out of the gate, make a statement in qualifying, and go for it from there.
Yeah, Lando, he's riding that high off the World Constructors Championship. I mean, that was just such a beautiful moment at the end of last year to see them actually pull it off. And you're right, he's a confidence-driven driver. Now, I say Lando, but he's got to pull off turn 1 in the race. That's his biggest downfall, but I think he's got pole locked down.
I'm going to stray from the pack. Shocker, I know.
Whoa.
I'm going Leclerc on this. I don't know why. I just have this feeling that Ferrari is going to be very good. Maybe it's because Hamilton, and they've kind of been prepping for this really last year because he knew he was coming. But I think that there's been so much in the works for him specifically. But I think that Leclerc is going to have a little bit more of a leg up. I'm not entirely sure if they think Leclerc is the top driver and Hamilton's behind him, or are they beside each other? I'm not really sure. And I think we'll actually kind of find that out through this season. So I'm actually excited for this one. I think Leclerc is going to come out strong and just kind of have that hunger in him to actually just beat Lando. I do think Verstappen's going to kind of be in that mix, especially in qualifying, but I think Leclerc is actually going to get that pole position.
I don't think that's a crazy take. I mean, you just talked about Ferrari 1-2ing this race last year, so they know this track well. Pole position means a lot, but it doesn't mean as much as scoring points for your team in the first race as the Drivers and Constructors Championships kick off in 2025. So starting with the bronze medal, starting with third place, Matt, who do you see coming home third?
J9 brought up a really good point about Ferrari and where Lewis and Charles stand. I know that Lewis is the veteran that has always dominated the sport, basically since some of these guys were kids, like little kids. I think Charles is going to maintain the lead and the firm grasp on the number one driver spot there. I don't see him winning the race, but I do see him getting on the podium. And I just, spoiler, do not have Lewis up there.
I don't either.
I also don't have Lewis up there. I have Max Verstappen finishing third. Fell out after a few laps last year, but I think he's going to come back and be hungry and fight for a podium. But I think there's two cars that are going to be better than the Red Bull, and he's just not going to be able to compete with the
It will be
drivers
curious because Max Verstappen just said to reporters that Red Bull is not going to be fighting for the win in the first race, but that might be bluffing, that might be double bluffing, who knows? You know how they like to stir up the pot. Spoiler, I don't have him on my podium. I've gone with Oscar Piastri in third, little hometown hero. If you look into Formula One history, Australians have not fared very well at their home race. So a podium would be quite special for Oscar. He finished just off the podium in fourth last year, so look him to take one step higher up.
I also have Piastri. I think he's always been a solid second there to Lando. It's okay, beginning of the season. I think he has a lot of strength, and I don't think we give him enough credit sometimes. So I actually have him getting on the podium here as third.
I think Oscar's a better driver than Lando. We'll have that conversation another day.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's early to get into that.
No, Josh, instead of that, just go with your second. Who do you have second? Stop
I have
drama.
Charles Leclerc. I want to put Ferrari winning the race, but I just think the McLaren's going to be too fast. I'm spoiling my first pick too. And I do have Lando there. I don't have Oscar, even though I just saying he's better. But yeah, I mean, I have Lando on pole. I think he's going to convert that pole into a win, even though he's a bad driver. He's not bad, obviously. But
all right.
Yeah. We're done. Yeah. Josh, you're out.
Okay.
I've also gone Charles in second.
Yeah.
I think this is the type of thing where I agree with you, Josh. I think McLaren has the better car, but that is not to discredit kind of what Jay and I was saying, what Charles has been able to do in a Ferrari. That's why I have him.
He's a better driver than Lando.
In a worse car. I don't know if that's true. We'll find out this year, but that's why I have Charles ahead of Oscar, because I think that, the McLaren's going to be really, really good, but I think Charles is also a phenomenal driver in his own right, and will be able to sneak that up into second place.
Yeah, I hear that. And Ben, you brought up a great point about Max's, kind of what he was saying to the press about not fighting for a win. I see him getting absolutely livid with seeing the back of those cars in front of him. I see him pushing really hard. And I'm not saying that Red Bull's going to have a very dominant season necessarily, but I see Max pushing for that P2 spot. Vegas is behind me, it looks like. So, maybe I'm just playing my odds a little bit more safe after a wretched Predictors Championship last year. But that's where I see Max just not being able to not fight for that. He's not that kind of driver, and that's what makes him so great.
Wow. I mean, as you said that, I feel like I'm more convinced to put him in second, but I'm going to go with my Leclerc. I agree with Ben and Josh on this one. I think he's too strong of a driver. Having him, I think he's just going to stand out against Hamilton, and I think he's going to bring in a really strong presence here. So I'm going Leclerc.
And sticking with you for P1, Josh, you already spoiled it's Lando Norris for you. J9, who do you have?
Also Lando. I think he's too electric to not.
Heck yeah. Love to hear it. I've gone Lando Norris as well. Converting a pole into a win, which his haters will hate to see.
This is
true. They will hate it, but at the end of the day, the dude's got to learn to just stick turn one, and I think he's finally learned how to do that. And as long as he can get pole, I think he finishes P1 as well.
And those are pretty much the usual suspects. We didn't talk about Max Verstappen as much, as although he did sneak it in there. If you've been listening along, paying attention to Formula One the last few years, that doesn't surprise you as much. But P10 might. That's where a lot more drama may happen. There's a lot more anybody's game halfway down the grid in the final point position. Let's start with you, Matt. Who have you gone for the first P10, the single point for the first race of the season?
I went with Lawson. I think that he needs to get more comfortable in the car before he's ready for a higher position. But I feel like I don't know, gut feeling, Lawson.
I'm going Albon, actually. I feel really good about Williams. I think that Sainz could actually drive pretty well here, but I'm intrigued on Sainz specifically to see, like, he has so much skill, but how does it then translate into the Williams car? And so that one's so iffy for me, but I think that Albon has had some pretty solid years in the Williams car. He's coming, like, he's not the vet on that team, but he is a vet from a Williams standpoint. So I think he's going to come in with some speed, get that 1 point, start the season off strong. And I think it's his time to shine just a tad.
This is what I love about...
I was about to say, I'm glad we're picking all different things, because I've gone for an Alpine driver. I have Pierre Gasly there.
Wow.
Alpine finished the year really strong, scoring points in the last few races towards the end of the season. And Pierre's been good, and he's kind of going to have to pull that team, I think, with Jack Doohan coming in. I think Pierre's going to clearly be the better driver there to start the season at least, while Jack's getting Formula One under his feet. And I think Gasly's going to score a point for Alpine.
I was going to say, I love P10 because, like J9 and Josh, you're talking about drivers that are having good performances finishing 10. I'm agreeing with Matt. I'm going Liam Lawson in P10 because I think this dude stinks. It's going to be an unfortunate lone Oceania race for him. For context, everybody said Perez sucked last year. He finished second in the first race of the season. I don't think the fortunes are going to be in Liam Lawson's favor. I think he's going to try and do too much, and it's just not going to be great. Maybe it's a learning curve, but I know Red Bull probably won't be thrilled with picking up a solo point from their second driver. But
they're used to it from last year.
Kind of want to see the drama, to be honest.
We shall see. P10, just as exciting as P1. You heard it here first. But even more exciting than that, of course, is our super spicy hot takes. That's right. You know them. You love them. They are worth 3 times as much as all of our other predictions because we are climbing the Scoville scale. We are coming with our crazy opinions, our hottest takes. J9, I feel like you championed the spicy hot take last year, so it's only fitting that we start with you.
Wow. Well, I think that you stole a little bit of my thunder there with your prediction for 10th. I actually have Liam Lawson doing not well at all in the Red Bull. I think he's really, he's a good driver, but I just don't think that that's the best for him. I think he's getting 15 or below.
Whoa. That would be a horrible first performance for his Red Bull career.
Well, is that if he finishes?
I went picante. I went spicy.
No, yeah, for sure. But is that if he DNFs, right? I'm just clarifying.
That counts.
Okay. Whether he finishes the race or not.
That could lead into mine. I think that a rookie is going to crash and DNF. So if Liam Lawson is the guy,
all signs leads to Liam Lawson, I guess.
I hope he's not because I like the guy. But
hey,
I have a more positive. Oh, sorry.
I would say a little related. I'm going to jump in with mine. I'm saying at least one rookie is going to outperform their veteran teammate, finish higher up.
Oh, so you're at least on the positive end of it.
But I don't think it's Liam Lawson. But that might be because he is racing with Max Verstappen. There's no chance he's going to beat it. I'm saying look out for Ollie Behrman against Esteban Ocon in the Haas. Look out for Gabriel Bortoleto against Nico Hulkenberg. That car might stink, but a 19th beats a 20th, so it might be on for him. Surprise, look for Kimi Antonelli to live up to the hype and have an incredible first performance for Mercedes. And then lastly, the one to look for, Isaac Hadjar versus Yuki Tsunoda. Both emotional drivers, both got something to prove, definitely chips on their shoulder. So see if any of those can steal the spotlight from their teammate in the first race.
Yeah, critical question here. Does Lance Stroll count as a rookie? Because he sucks so much.
No.
Negative. He's been in Formula One for a long time.
I'm kidding, but also
I know.
no.
But Fernando Alonso is a rookie. No, he's actually not. That is the joke. He's obviously the longest tenured Formula One driver, but I fully expect him.
So looks like a rookie too.
I
But
fully
at
expect.
the same time, I think that Lance Stroll is going to take my spot as Sergio Perez's hater.
You're just going to hate on him?
I think I'm going to be hating on Lance Stroll the most, at least at the beginning of the season.
Unfortunately, that is not a hot take because most people hate Lance Stroll and wish somebody else would replace him. But we will have to wait at least one race longer to see if that comes true, although it probably won't. Matt, you're the last one with a spicy hot take. Lay it on us.
Yeah, I also went along the lines of a positive spicy hot take regarding rookies. I think that a rookie will finish top 5 on their debut. And we've seen rookies win in the past. We've seen rookies on podium. It's not impossible. But to be honest, with the current grid we have, I don't see it being very likely. And I really want it to happen. So that was my criteria.
Are you already not believing your hot take? So
it's gotta be spicy
it's just,
for a reason.
It has to be. It can't be easy.
This is the hot take I think of all 4 of us. I want to come true. One, because Matt, you mentioned you sucked at the Predictors Championship last year, and we want to see improvement. But we've talked about Lewis Hamilton nearly won his first ever Formula One race, and Antonelli. I'm not saying he's gotten Lewis Hamilton hype, but he's certainly gotten thrown out as the next protege like Max Verstappen. It's certainly been tossed in the circles. It would be very cool to see somebody like Kimi Antonelli, who has so much pressure from all the hype, actually live up to it in his first race. I think that would be an incredible headline to kick off 2025.
Unless he's the guy to DNF.
Ooh.
I didn't specify. I didn't say who it was going to be.
I guess everybody will just have to watch along and see. It is all the way on the other side of the world in Melbourne, Australia. So if you are staying up for qualifying, that is 1 a.m. on Saturday. That is March 15th. And the Grand Prix, only slightly better. It is at midnight Saturday going into Sunday. So technically on the 16th, but right on the cusp there. Usually the Grand Prix are televised on ESPN. I imagine that late at night it probably will be because it won't be competing with anything. I believe for our American listeners, this is the last year that ESPN is covering Formula One. So be sure to tune in. Their coverage is fantastic. You can watch it just about anywhere for free. So tune into that. If not, definitely catch the highlights the next morning. We will be back after the race to break it all down, see if our predictions came true, just talk about all of the chaos that may or may not go down. We will just have to wait and see. We will talk to you then, but until then, stay speedy. Goodbye, everyone.